Hello traders and welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 156. Iliya here, and as always I'm really happy to welcome you on the Trading Fanatic channel. You know what we're going to do in this video. We're going to have a look at the market, how it developed this week, what kind of opportunities we had, and of course what could potentially happen in the upcoming week. From the last weekly outlook and setups, we had the majority of the setups playing out, which is quite amazing. We're right now about to have a brand new monthly candle open, a brand new month ahead of us. Of course, this is the month of August, which is usually classified as a summer month. Usually when people say, bankers are gonna go on vacation. Well, I have been trading for around 3 to 4 years, right? And pretty much my last year or 2 years have been really serious. And what I have spotted is that actually it is those months that are kind of discussed as slow months are the fastest moving ones. All right. So my tip is, of course, take a break, enjoy a big holiday, which I am doing right now. But of course, try to participate in the market as much as possible because money never sleeps. All right. But of course, make sure to take a little break, to reflect, to step away from the charts, because this is really where the magic happens. You get new ideas, you reflect on what you have been doing so far, and you kind of open up yourself to new opportunities. All right. So of course, this channel is all about trading. I share these weekly outlook and setups every Saturday, and once per week from September on, I'm going to be sharing an educational piece of content every week. So make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notification bell in order not to miss when a video comes out. And without further ado, let's have a look what we have for this week. All right, as always, we're going to get started with a Dixie, but before we do that, shout out to my amazing broker, Forex.com. They have all the instruments, stocks, cryptos, Forex. They also have great trading conditions, and they also have 2 types of accounts, but make sure to pick their eco account. You're going to pay a little bit of commission, but for every lot that you accumulate, the commission will go towards planting 10 trees, which I really think is an amazing initiative. They're the first broker to do so, so make sure to check them out. Link is down in the description. Check out their website and open your eco account. So let's help the environment. So back to the Dixie. As expected, we are currently in this pullback stage. What I like about this weekly candle is that it's not like very strong, right? It rather has a very nice wick to the downside that created a beautiful lower high on the lower time frames, and then we initiated very nicely to the downside, right? And pretty much right now we're retesting this structure high, filling in the imbalance right there, which is something very similar we did a couple of weeks, or actually I should say a month ago or 2 months ago, right? So right now we're doing the same, and we're pulling back towards this overall weaker range, right? So very important. Next week we have NFP, right, on Friday, and currently what I have to start with actually is that we had the interest rate decision this week from the Fed, and we also, more importantly, we had the Fed's monetary policies press conference, in which Mr. Powell was a little bit dovish, which in other words means bearish, right? Because they said that they're gonna decide on their interest rate hikes or not, of course, on a meeting by meeting basis, right? So this, of course, gives a little bit uncertainty to investors and traders, which immediately was met with a little bit of negativity, which caused a risk on perspective across the markets. So what we're going to be seeing in the upcoming pairs is, of course, the JPYs flushing to the downside, because again, money is flowing outside of the USD and jumping into the JPY. And of course, like pairs like Euro USD, Aussie USD, NZD USD, GBP USD are currently in this pullback stage, but they're rather a little bit indecisive. Right, so Dixie right now tapping 106, potentially headed towards 105, and 105.50 is at a key zone, which we have to see what's going to happen. Dropping onto the daily time frame, of course, we had this kind of range that stayed right there for around, I think, 9 days. Yeah, around 8 days or 8 bars before we actually broke out. And when did we break out? Well, pretty much on Thursday and Friday, right? Filling in this empty space right there. So if we were to minimize the zone, I'm not going to do this, but what I would do is probably do this and then potentially take this. And of course, we can see if we really zoom it in, this is really the candle that actually triggered all the momentum. So this is potentially where we can expect the market to tap into, okay? But currently, of course, the flow of the market and the structure is bearish. So as long as we're bearish, we do not go long, okay? So very nice development. If you remember, we had this zone for quite a while ago. And we had this first drive, second drive, third drive, and a flush, which made, of course, me and a lot of us think that this is the reversal. So we had this supply, the market came into the supply, tried to respond, responded, but then we had the interest rate decision, which spiked actually into the supply that we first wanted to trade from. And it took out all of this liquidity that was resting right there. And then we initiated to the downside. So afterwards, it was rather clean that we might pull back towards this zone right there. We tagged inside, and then we went ahead and made the beautiful lower low, which is right there, right now. And what we're currently doing is already retesting the last supply, the last lower high, throwing a wick inside, and headed towards the downside. So pretty much I think this low will be taken because this is the lower low. It's a weak low which is supposed to break, right? And what I always tell you about wicks, you remember, they tend to get filled either 25 to 50%. Okay, so what I would expect, again, just actually wrapping it up and sharing with you my outcome, is I would expect for the market to potentially tag into this wick again and then to potentially flush lower. This is my perfect outcome, because what we can do is also just push into the low, stop inside this zone, and then from there I'm going to start monitoring for potential signs of bullishness, or if we're just going to continue dropping lower into the lower demand zone. Okay, so if I just kind of go to the hourly or to the 15-minute, it's rather debatable whether we have like a 15-minute shift. What I like is that we went on to grab some liquidity from this guy, so we took out the high, we sharply pushed to the downside. But of course, depending on how you mark structure, some of you might say that this is your 15-minute break, some of you might say that this is it with a bearish candle. Is it bearish? No, I don't know, I don't see the color. Yeah, it's bullish candle, but yeah, the last bearish candle is right there, right? But pretty much the low is right here. Okay, so slightly bit kind of 50-50 for me right now. Maybe we're gonna have a break of this significant low, then pull back, and then a potential short. But overall, without actually overcomplicating too much, I would say that at the moment, with the current risk on perspective, I would say that the Dixie is bearish. So I will be looking for shorts in the dollar and respectively longs on the USD pairs. All right. So leaving it there, very important to know to just wait for Monday to open to see what the market's going to show us its hand, and then to potentially flow with the market. So keeping this DXY in mind, let's head for the next pairs. All right, let's have a look at Euro USD. So this week for me on EU is a break-even week. I traded only on Monday and Thursday, and 2 trades in total, both of them break even. And Tuesday and Wednesday I was traveling 200 kilometers away to get treated by a dermatologist. Then on Friday I didn't get any setups, and pretty much right now it's super hard for me to trade. It's actually super hard right now to record this weekly outlook. I've been stopping like 5 times already on EU because like there are constantly people flowing in, dogs are barking, guests are arriving. It's just madness, right? So nothing too much. I only trade right now like an hour per day, which is what actually kind of forced me a little bit to work on a swing trading strategy for times like this, for example. But yes, overall, if you zoom in right now on the weekly, EU was a little bit hard to read this week. And what we see right now is that we're having an overall inside bar on the weekly time frame, which of course we can expect the mother candle to be broken out into the next week. Currently, like the weekly range, we can debate a little bit on how precisely to draw your weekly range, right? We can take it from here to there, right? Which is, we're almost going to be tapping the 50%, but it's also correct to drop it from here, right? And I think it's more correct to drop it from there, because if we actually have a look, what is the highest high before we actually broke structure? Well, it's this one, right? It's pretty clean. We had a pullback. Then we tried to push, we failed to break, we just pulled back to get a little bit of liquidity, and then we dropped, right? So I'm going to keep the range like this, and a potential zone that we can pull back towards will be this little guy right there. So taking this information, again, from the weekly, I would expect to have another leg into the highs. So is it going to be like just to take out the liquidity above this inside bar and then flush? Is it going to be like a big pump into the supply and then flush? Or is it just going to be like a tap of the 50% and flush? We don't know, right? And what I always tell you is don't try to guess where the market is going to go and where the market is going to pull back to. Just flow with it, all right? So again, in terms of the daily, you can see that we haven't moved outside of this range for quite a while, right? It's been 9 bars or 7 bars actually, right? So 7 days staying within this range. And yeah, nothing too much to extract on the daily. Again, we also have this kind of daily range right there. So all in all, I do think we are definitely having another push into the highs to pull us back a little bit more into premium. So then potentially shorts can get in. And judging by the current risk on perspective, we have seen the dollar decline. So Euro USD is going to push. But if we also compare the Dixie to the Euro, the Dixie was much weaker, but the Euro wasn't that much stronger. All right. And we had a webinar on Thursday. We really tried hard to kind of break down the direction on the Euro, but pretty much it's a range, right? But what we had is this overall break right there, which is a 4-hourly break to the downside. Let me just do it properly. Then we have this pullback lower high. Then we have a lower low right there. So pretty much right here, you had a potential bullish shift, right? But then, of course, we dropped this extreme supply. The market tapped inside, reacted, and then pretty much it was a matter of the battle between supply and demand, right? And of course, right now for me, it's easy to say that demand has won because I'm doing this in hindsight, which of course is very easy. But of course, it's really, the magic really happens live, like what you should be doing live. And of course, I do think you need to have systematic rules in place in order to know what you're looking at, in order to have a systematic approach to also reading structure, right? So according to me, the market was more to the bearish side at that time, because I also read this right there as a bearish break, right? But then as the market started bullish, took out the highs, right? Then we had a little bit of a pullback. And as you can see, currently we are overall bullish, right? Just reading the market as of right now. And we can say that supply has been taken out. So this supply reacted, but demand held, right? So reaction from this supply. If supply was in control, we should have broken lower, but no, we held from demand and also went ahead and made a new higher high. Already pulled back towards the brand new demand. So what we can expect right now is potentially a new 4-hourly higher high and of course a potential target of this inside bar high. So similarly to the Dixie, we're already reacting from the demand, creating this kind of 15-minute structure. We can debate a little bit whether this is a reversal structure, because again, the swing high is there, but some of you might say it's here. Some of you might say it's even here, right? So it's really a little bit subjective. What could happen is the market can pull us back a little bit lower, then hold from there and push. But what could also happen is the market can just take out the low as liquidity and then show us signs of reversal. Overall, I don't want to think too much about this very immediate outcome, because Monday can open and the market might open up there. So then we have to change everything that we did right now. Okay, so overall, I am more bullish on Euro as I'm also bearish on the Dixie. I would expect a new higher high. I would expect all of these flat highs to get taken. Well, yeah, specifically this high. And then, of course, we know that we have a lot of empty space, a lot of imbalances right there to fill in. So I do think we can have like a nice bullish leg before something happens on the macro side that is also going to cause the Euro to plummet. Okay, so this is how I currently look at the Euro. Overall bullish bias. Let's see how this one is going to play out. Looking at Euro Yen, we can see a very nice bearish push, probably caused by USD Yen. But what we have right now is, again, we can debate a little bit on what is happening right now, right? So first of all, we went ahead and took out this high by very little, which we might say that this is then a reversal to the downside. Then we pulled back and we also held from supply. That is right there. So I'm just dropping it right now on the weekly to just show you how you can read the weekly candles, then transfer on the daily, which is going to make much more sense, right? And right now we are going ahead, creating a brand new lower low and also tapping deeply into this demand zone. So this is kind of my just draft on the weekly chart. Overall, this price is bullish, right? But right now we're having this little either reversal or a pullback. And again, how do we know when it ends? Well, we know when it ends when price starts to reverse. Okay, so currently, yes, we are tapping within this big range. This is the first, which was actually a higher low, because then we went ahead and made a new high. But man, this is very little, right? So according to your rules, guys, a lot of you are taking structure breaks as wicks. Some of you prefer bodies, right? So again, I don't know what is correct. I'm currently testing it out myself. But after we broke this structure, we pull back, supply is in control, and right now we're going ahead and making a new lower low. So even actually ignoring all of this analysis that we did on the weekly, currently the daily is also bearish. And if I also transfer on the 4-hourly time frame right now, we're going to see beautiful bearish pushes. All right. I do think also my analysis played out right there. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not following up on those JPY pairs. But what happened is that we had a break of the high right there, which created a new higher high. Then we broke the higher low, which signified a shift. And then, of course, it's all the matter of picking the right supply zone to trade from, right, and spotting the right lower highs and higher lows to potentially take a trade from, right? So there is the first break, there is the second break right there. So first trade is right there, second trade is right there, and then we just plummeted to the downside. Okay, so right now it's a bit hard to judge because we're tapping in like a very big zone on the left. There are no signs for a potential reversal, and usually when you have like 2 or 3 strong legs, right? So let's say you have like an uptrend, the market shifts, gives you a little pullback, drops, gives you a nice pullback, drops, right? And after that, like first drop, second drop, then it starts to kind of slow down a little bit, which is exactly what we're having right now, right? So there's a first move, pullback, second move, pullback, third move, very nice. And right now the structure starts to kind of develop a little bit more compressed. Like we have a little pullback, push, starting to compress. So technically right now our lower high, there we go with the dogs again. Our lower high is here, right? So there is our last structure break, which is right there. So I'm just gonna take my supply here. And as long as we stay below this zone, we are technically bearish, right? So let's see what's gonna happen. I would be looking for the market to pull back towards here and take another short if I'm trading this live right now, because this looks like a great liquidity level to take. Precisely this high right there, and then potentially as we pull back into supply, I'm going to be dropping to like a 15-minute time frame or even the lower time frames to look for an entry. Okay, so this is my outlook on euro yen. I am bearish until I am proven wrong. And of course, if you're trading the JPY pairs, make sure that you're also monitoring USD JPY, because this is like the DXY but for the yen pairs. Let's explore the Aussies, starting from AUD USD. So pretty much this week to start with, we're having a lot of Aussie news, and of course, most importantly, we're having their interest rate decision and rate statement. And I do believe we have a couple of other important news releases, but this one is the highlight. What we can see is that it is expected to be hiked by 50 basis points, which is great. And of course, this immediately tells us that the Aussie can potentially appreciate in value. And what we see right now in terms of the weekly is that we're having an overall 2 bullish weeks, pulling us back nicely towards 50% of this overall weekly leg. So the question is right now, can we still climb higher, right, before actually continuing going lower with the overall trend? Or we're just gonna stop right there and maybe start to consolidate. The interest rate is on Tuesday, which is great. So we can expect like Monday to chop around a little bit, to build a little bit of liquidity. We're already like starting to spike a little bit. Then potentially Tuesday is gonna throw the big wick. It's gonna like make that massive, usually interest rate decision massacre like this. And then potentially Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, you are going to be following the flow and trading with the overall trend. So again, what I didn't like a couple of weeks ago is this kind of price action, which was really flat. So I thought that this one is definitely being taken. Well, there it is. We took to the highest point. There it is. And currently we're tapping inside this little guy, which I don't think is going to be the cause of reversal. I kind of also do think we might spike a little bit higher to grab more liquidity, probably take out this high, and then potentially start launching the orders lower. And then of course, if we drop to the 4-hourly time frame, I think the extreme zone that I had was this one from last week, right? I'm not pretty sure. Again, as I tell you, I'm really not in the zone. The past couple of weeks, it's probably even over a month right now. But overall, if you just again followed the overall momentum and the overall flow of the market, it has been bullish, right? So starting since from there with this massive bearish candle, there it is. We had a tap inside long, then we actually shifted lower. Me included, I would have counted this one as a potential reversal sign. But again, as I keep telling you, you only have a reversal when you have 2 lows created, right? Because oftentimes what you can have is this, right? Which is precisely what happened right there. So always be aware of those 2 scenarios, right? Then the market continued to push into the highs. There is your brand new demand zone, tapped once, tapped twice, tapped 3 times, exploded again, right? And right now we are actually at the last hours, we're just liquidating a little bit below these lows and responding massively, which again makes me think, okay, are we bullish or bearish right now, right? A little bit kind of hard analysis this week in terms of like clean structure. But yes, because we can read it in a lot of ways right now. We can say, this one is a break into the highs. Okay, so this one is a break into the lows. So we can drop a supply and start shorting, right? Well, some of you might say, well, yeah, this one is just a liquidity gap. Our major low is right there and it hasn't been broken with a body close. So I am still bullish, right? What I'm going to say is pretty much nothing. Let's try to follow the flow on this one. I am open to both outcomes because just looking at it right now, it is a little bit confusing. Okay, it's a little bit confusing. I see that the market is being compressed right now. Probably Miri is going to come in and tell me that this is some sort of a Wyckoff schematic. But I'm seeing pretty much higher highs created right now. The higher lows are also maintaining. So I'm not shorting this market until I see a clean sign of bearishness, right? Because according to me, this one is not bearishness, right? This is pretty much bullishness throwing a big rejection wick in order to responding. So let's see how this supply is going to act right now as we're pulling back inside, right? But yes, we already grabbed the liquidity below. So again, similarly to EU, we can have a pullback towards this zone, higher low, and a continuation higher, or we can have a push inside right there and a reversal lower attacking the low. Okay, so those are my two outcomes. But what I'm gonna say for AU is wait for the interest rate decision, right? Wait to see what the RBA are gonna say, and then potentially strike with the new momentum. Okay. I do expect AJ, yep, so there we go, AJ with some very nice bearishness. This one is also pretty hard to analyze, especially on the hard time frames, right? So we have a push, pullback, a new push, pullback, then this push fails to take out this high. So this is an overall bearish sign, right? But we're just right now stuck in this range, so it's a little bit hard to determine what's going on. Monthly time frame a bit extended, throwing some wicks into the highs. This candle is going to close bearish, which kind of maybe throw me a sign that we might start pulling back a little bit to fill in this big push, right? Dropping onto the daily, it is also a little bit hard to analyze because we're having this overall range right there. Yes, but overall, we can see if we ask ourselves, okay, what is the current leg we're trading within? Well, it's this big guy right there, right? We pull back below 50%, try to push, failed. We pull back twice, try to push, fail. So I do think if this fails to break the high, we're going to come back into the lows a third time, then potentially actually tapping into a real range, which is right there. Okay. So we kind of try to push, pull back, try to push again, fail. Looking at this bearish momentum, it kind of looks bearish. It makes me think that we might attack the low to gather more liquidity, then to push higher, right? And judging by the sentiment of the JPY, which is rather bearish, I am currently going to say that I'm bearish on this pair, right? So if we also zoom in and ignore what is happening on the left, we have this overall push, we have this pullback that actually went below this. So we can say that this is a full hourly shift of structure or just the first sign of it. Then we see this little wick where the market came in, right? Usually the Aussie pairs tend to do this. They grab a little bit more liquidity than EU is going to do, for example. Liquidity grab, then there is our shift right there. And then pretty much the shorts were way too fast to be caught, in my opinion. So currently there is my major lower high. It's right there. So as long as the market stays below this, I am bearish. So if I have a pullback towards the zone, lower high, I will be interested to sell. And of course, guys, if you actually trust this hard time frame analysis, if we actually see that like on 2 occasions, the market failed to push higher. So there is the first one failed. There is a second one failed. I do think we're going to go for a third one. And then of course, we're going to see what's going to happen. Okay. So my overall sentiment on AJ is bearish. Maybe the interest rate is going to help this one push lower again. Aussie dollar is a little bit tough to analyze right now because right now we're starting to have the battle between supply and demand. But of course, longs are preferred because it's currently what is driving the market. Okay, so those are the Aussies. Let's see what happens. The NZD is pretty much almost the same as the Aussies. We're having that same weekly range. So dropping it from the high to the low, 50% is just being kissed with the current weekly candle. I do like the weekly candle, while if I immediately compare it to the JPY one, it's rather a difference, right? This is why I always tell you the JPYs are usually moving differently due to USD JPY, okay? So the question is, can we still pull back higher, right, towards tapping towards like the extreme levels right there, or is 50% enough to continue going lower? Well, again, as I keep saying, only price action will tell us. Very flat price right there, and I do think this high can act as liquidity, right, to seek for the market to seek going above this level before actually reversing. In terms of the daily, it's a little bit hard. Again, we can see that the market is in a kind of up down indecision, spike down, spike up, right? And this last candle was actually quite ridiculous. What happened on Friday that we had these big wicks? But yes, this one is a bit, yeah. So again, guys, we can start debating right now. How do you usually mark structure? We all have different rules. Usually, I like to keep it to the most recent one, right? So currently, this, according to me, will be a potential full hourly shift, right? Because this is my last lower, higher low before tapping, before actually creating a higher high. But right now, we're tapping this demand, right, which is the extreme demand, and reacting massively. So similarly to AU, we're having right now this battle between supply and demand. And who is going to win? The one that is usually on the hard time frames, right? So currently we are overall bullish, but also we're tapping above 50% and taking very important liquidity right there. Okay, so what I set on my AU analysis is what I want to see is the market to confirm a new lower low, which is going to be right there. So of course, if you're feeling a bit risky, you can go ahead and short it from there, but just know that this is just the first sign of a potential reversal, right? It's not clean yet, because what will happen right now is this. Tap inside, and usually when this happens, there is some sort of a demand on the left, which is a perfect example right now. So what I'm gonna say again is give it some time. Don't rush into it. There is not like an immediate setup that I can call to you guys. But yes, so there is my current setup on this one. I would like to see how the market is gonna pull back towards here and then maybe attack the lows. But if we start with a push lower, maybe tap right there, we can also attack the highs. We can also go for another liquidity gap. So when it comes to like AU, NZD/USD, and even EU, I would love to give them some time at the beginning of the week. Going to NZD/JPY, again, the weekly time frame, very nice bearish candle right there, which is a follow-up of a very nice pin bar right there shooting into the highs. So again, if we just think of structure, like this is the push, this is the pullback. The pullback was completed, but the market failed to make a new higher high, which means that not enough liquidity has been collected, which immediately sends me to think that this low is weak and can get potentially taken before we continue with this overall weekly push higher. Okay, so immediately it gives me that those bearish vibes, right? Dropping also on the daily, what we can see is the same thing happening. Okay, so yeah, this leg is not correct because it didn't take out the swing, right? A lot of ways to look at it. Some of you might look at it like this. Okay, pullback, we're bearish, right? While I look at it from the weekly leg, which is this push, pullback, we're trying to push, fail. Try to push, fail. Try to push, fail. Right? So what does that mean is that sellers are in control right now and they're pushing the market lower. And yeah, but currently this price for me is a bit hard to analyze. Why? Because it's a simple range, right? So then going on to the 4H, which is my favorite time frame. We came in very close towards the extreme. We actually liquidity grabbed it by very little. And then of course, what we can see is immediately the market breaks the 4-hourly higher low, shifts to bearish. And then of course, it's a matter of finding the right supply to trade from. There is a tap, try to push, comes in again to grab the liquidity, right there. And then we start trending. And as we usually start trending, it is a little bit hard to catch if you're not trading breakout. Okay, so similar to all the JPY pairs, NJ is also pretty bearish. There is my last lower high that as long as we stay below, I am bearish. So if we start having a pullback, lower high, I will be interested to sell. And potentially just knowing that this low failed to cause a new higher high, this low failed to cause anything, I do believe first target is 83. Okay, so on the short term, I will be targeting 83, and of course on the long term 79.50 can also be a feasible target, but I usually don't look that far in time. Okay, so NU a little bit needing some time, while NJ I can say with the certainty that I'm currently bearish and I will be looking for shorts. And there is the catalyst for all the JPY flushes, right? USD JPY, a very nice massive bearish engulfing candle is printing out, finally having that pullback, right? So I'm immediately gonna drop my range and we can see that we're just kissing below the 50%. But is this enough, right? Are we also gonna take some liquidity, which I immediately see could be below this low, right? So keeping it simple and dropping onto the daily, we have some beautiful flat price action right there that is already taken out. And right now we're tapping into this demand, okay? So the question is right now, are we gonna hold from this demand or are we gonna break it to take its liquidity and then to potentially initiate higher? As I told you, currently, after the Fed's interest rate announcement and also their press conference, which I think is a bit more important, there has been a risk on perspective, and we can see that USD, especially USD JPY, immediately goes down, more money flowing into the yen, which is usually considered a safe haven currency. Okay, so in terms of the daily, it has shifted to the downside, and I do believe I also said that it's to the downside even before those flushes. So we had the daily shift right there. There is our pullback, 27th of July, and then some very nice flushes to the downside. Going on to the 4H, we can see it even earlier. There is a shift. There is also this kind of lower high that we could have traded from. Hopefully some of your JPY traders caught this one, right? They're very clean move. But maybe you should take like the whole range like this. Maybe there are opportunities on the lower time frame. But yeah, I do think that there is actually the announcement, right? So we throw a big wick and then we just started to trend. So then it's all about trend following. How can you catch the move lower? Which is something that I suck with, guys, honestly. If I don't get into the initial setup, right? So for example, we're having the tap inside the demand, the market starts shifting. If I don't get into this one and then the market like starts to expand like this, then I don't get in those, right? So this is something that I'm currently working with. Of course, I'm not where I want to be. Always more work to be done. Okay. So currently, again, we are tapping in this demand, which I do think it's going to give us a reaction, which we already have. But in terms of the structure, it's a bit hard to say where is my lower high, right? So is this little candle a lower high? Well, not really, right? We can see that it's reacting from it, right? This candle did not make a new lower low. It's pretty much a pullback candle, right? But I would say that my range is this, right? I would say that my range is this. So if we start having a deeper pullback towards right there, then I will be also interested to short, right? But similar to all the JPYs that we have, they all have kind of a lower high currently. And on UJ, it's this one. So of course, if you're feeling aggressive, look at this beautiful reaction, right? If we start pulling back towards right there and you get your lower time frame confirmation, I do think you can take a sell and then of course target the lows, right? But I would say this is slightly bit aggressive because it looks like we are a bit too extended right now. And we're going to be trading from demand and we're going to be trading after all of these liquidity gap and after tapping 50%. So according to me, immediate shorts on market open might be slightly risky because we can have like a deeper pullback after taking out all the liquidity right there, tapping into 50% and also tapping into demand. But long term, I think with what is happening right now with the announcement of the Fed, I do think UJ can start pushing us lower, right? So if you get any opportunity to go short, preferably after we pull back a little bit deeper to potentially retest this low or this whole range, I would be interested to sell. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about UJ, and of course, wherever UJ goes, usually all the JPYs will follow. So if you're trading again JPYs, make sure that you master this pair. All right, let's have a look at the GBPs starting from GU. So overall bullish week, which is pretty nice because we are initiating that overall weekly pullback. Again, my range, it's a little bit tough because we have like this wick right there that actually caused the lower low. Then we have this pullback and then the push. So some of you might drop a range like this, which might make more sense on the daily. Some of us might drop a range like this. Nevertheless, both of them tapped 50%, right? And the first little zone that I see for a potential supply is this, right? In terms of the weekly, there is a second one. So overall, the higher time frame bias on GU is bearish, right? And we're just right now pulling back towards some very important zones. Okay, so there is the first one. And of course, just straight out of the bat, what I'm going to say is that if this one is not going to work, right, we're going to break it and we're going to come into the next one. And then, of course, if this one is not going to work, we're going to break it again. And what simply happens is that you then realize that the market is in an uptrend. Okay, and this has been something that when I was starting out, I really got wrong, right? Because I used to trade like support and resistance, or right now I'm trading like supply and demand, but it's pretty much the same concepts, right? So you have like, let's say a nice downtrend, right? And you're like, okay, so I have supply there, and supply there. And then the market just stabs the first one and breaks the first one. And you're like, okay, it's going to retest the second. I'm going to short again. The market pulls back. oh, breaks it again, okay, I'm gonna short again. And then by the time you actually wake up and say, oh, the market is actually bullish, well, it's already too late. And then what happens is the market starts shifting lower, but then you look at demand levels again and you try to long, yet the market starts to create supplies, right? So a little bit of an insight for you right there. Maybe you can go and backtest this one, but it's something that usually happens when the market has already developed and you're like, oh my God, but why did I actually keep buying this bearish market, right? So again, back to the point, we're just right now sitting at this little supply area right there. So what I'm going to be doing is dropping onto the 4H and looking for clean signs of reversals, okay? Very nice tag at 50%. Liquidity has been taken out right there, right? Look at that very nice spike. Technically right now, we are already kind of having this full hourly shift, but it's with the wick, right? And as I said, we're also currently responding from demand. So EU, AU, NZUSD, GBP/USD are currently having this precise same price action, which needs a little bit more time, okay? So of course, within this wick, there is supply, but right now our task is to see, okay, is this supply gonna hold and then break below demand? Which is only when I'm gonna start shorting, okay? So currently having this little piece of price action right there, it's a little bit hard for me to say, well, I'm bullish or I'm bearish, right? It could be both, right? So right now we're just taking out these highs as potential liquidity. So I'm interested to see how it's going to come in towards this zone. Is it going to react? Is it going to provide me with a lower time frame confirmation entry? Maybe, right? Or is it just going to blow through the roof, turn bullish? So then I can start longing, okay? So again, similarly to what I said on all the pairs, which I don't usually like because I would like to give you a specific outcome, but I don't do this because I also want to teach you that you should not be married to a specific outcome. Because if I tell you right now, this is shorts, right? This market is shorts. This means that I do not understand not the randomness, but the probability of the market, because we can go in many different ways. Okay, so this is GU again. Let's give it some time. And then of course, transferring on to GJ, we can see immediately the bearishness. A very nice wick was thrown into the highs, immediately rejecting into the lows, right? So overall bearish, but you can see also the last couple of weeks, right, there are rather kind of up, down, up, down, up, down. So it's a little bit hard to kind of say, okay, I am bullish or bearish on the hard time frames, but overall we can see it's bullish, right? Dropping onto the daily, let's see if we have, because I'm not trading GJ, I'm not trading the JPY, so I'm not really kind of into the zone with them, but we have that same thing that we have been discussing for quite a while, right? We have this overall daily leg. The market pulls back, tries to stop right there, tries to push, fails. Okay, we're gonna come back, grab more orders. Then we try to push, fail, try to push, fail, right? So this makes me think that this low is potentially our attack level, which is 160 precisely, right? Oh man, in fact, it's, what's the low on this candle? 160. Look at that. I'm looking at the low value, 160. This is potentially where we can say that the market might be headed. We took out the high right there, so liquidity grab is complete. There is our reversal sign. There is our potentially daily zone. That is the major zone. And of course, if we transfer onto the 4H, we're going to have little pullbacks, right? So currently, of course, the last one is this. Is it positioned within 50% of this leg? No. Okay. So what could happen again is the market can tap, react, pull back, and then starts to shift from there. Okay. So I'm overall bearish on GJ, but of course it can form in many different ways, right? Right now we can start initiating a push to the downside. We can start initiating a pullback. We can stop from right there. We can reverse from right there. Although I don't think so, because I do think this can get taken as liquidity for us to tap inside the major zone, right? But overall, I am bearish. And of course, currently, there is nothing to do with the current price zone, right? Of course, you can drop to a 50-minute time frame and start counter trending towards the highs, right? But of course, according to me, the bias is bearish on this pair. So I'm going to be looking for any sort of a pullback, preferably above 50% in order to short it. Okay. Just a very quick look at Euro GBP. Bearishness, which means, yeah, we have seen this in price, right? We have seen that EU did not manage to push as high as GU did, right? And we can see that the euro is actually much weaker than the pound, right? So I'm just not trading and analyzing this one at all. But yes, we have an overall push, pullback, and overall push again. So there is our overall range, right? So I would expect like a little pullback towards the zone, but I'm just not trading this one because whenever I analyze this one, it just always goes wrong. Okay, So again, just to sum up very quickly, GU is like all the other pairs. It needs a little bit of development to really see whether the market is going to actually respect the demand and push higher, or is it going to hold from this supply and this newly formed supply and break the lows. Depending on what happens, then of course I'm going to adapt. While the GJ, similarly to all JPYs, is more bearish, so going short has the higher chance of success. Let's have a quick glance at gold. So what I have been mentioning throughout the video is about that risk on perspective that we're having right now, which was caused by the Fed's monetary policy statement. Again, their rates right now being determined on a meeting by meeting basis, which is kind of a little bit more dovish, we say, which is bearish in other words, right? Because right now investors do not know whether they're going to actually hike the rates, right? Which is immediately met with some pessimism. And we can see immediately reflecting the price on gold. We were expecting potentially those lows to get attacked, right? But we just stopped on the brink of breaking them and we're initiating a pullback, right? So getting back into that range, okay? But of course, also in terms of the weekly, like the last push was this, that last push has been violated right there. And technically right now we are bearish and my weekly leg is this. So we're pulling back towards that 50% and potentially towards filling that little imbalance right there, sitting around 1785, right? So dropping onto the daily, I was expecting for the market to take out some of those flat highs, which we're currently doing right now. And yeah, if I just take out this line and maybe drop a zone, because I usually like zones instead of lines, we are currently technically bullish. And what I have right now is my drawings from last week. We were having a look at this little demand right there. There is the shift of structure, a little pullback, high, and then we tapped once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, the last one throwing that little liquidity gap right there. And then we just pushed into the highs without a stop, right? So a little bit hard to determine where the major structure is. I would prefer to drop like the extreme right now. But then if I tell myself, well, is the market going to pull back that low before taking a long? I don't think so. So we can start dropping ranges like this. This range hasn't been formed yet because we haven't really had like a nicer pullback. But yes, currently, again, I'm not a gold trader, right? I'm just looking at it from the macro side of things. I would expect for the market to reach above 50%. And then from there, we're going to judge whether it's going to start reversing lower or is it going to continue pushing higher. Okay, so of course, if we initiate a bearish pullback first, any pullback towards the lows, towards 50%, it's going to be a great buying opportunity because we eventually know there is that little high as well that we can potentially attack. We know that potentially this is the overall price zone that we would like for the market to come in before we start looking for shorts. Okay, so any longs before we tap into this zone are very nice. Of course, we can continue from here, tap into the highs, right, and then start reversing. We're gonna see. Okay, so of course, the gold experts, let me know what you think. Do you think we're first gonna tap into the highs and reverse? Do you think we're gonna have another long opportunity? Let me know if you're short on the higher time frames or long. Let me know your thoughts. I always appreciate them, but this is my view on gold as of right now. Indices, stocks, everything is right now climbing higher, as I keep saying, risk on perspective. And just very quickly shifting towards our fear and greed index, we can see that we have been climbing quite steeply, right? 1 month ago, we were at extreme fear of 22, and right now we are 42, right? And we're just about to enter into that neutral stage, right? Which of course, according to me, as I keep mentioning, is a potential pullback towards kind of pulling back the mean value, which we can see here on this chart is the 125-day EMA, moving average, before actually plummeting to the downside. But I don't really know at this point, right? Was this the pullback? We just entered bearish market. I don't think US30 actually entered it. Oh, almost, right? We almost entered bearish market and now we're gonna start recovering. Well, let's see, right? I'm not so much experienced yet, but it's rather strange what is happening right now, right? So another massive bullish week into the highs, right? So we're right now really nicely sitting within this range, which was the last kind of range before we initiated the orders to the downside, right? So right now what I'm looking for is for bearish signs, right? I would expect a little bit more of a climb, maybe to liquidate a little bit of a high that is staying right there. And then of course, I'm going to be looking for the 4H and for the dailies to start shifting. The daily is going to be a little bit hard to shift because on the daily right now, this is our high low, right? So what I'm going to be monitoring is the 4 hourly. if the flow is going to keep climbing higher, or is it going to start showing me signs of bearishness. Okay. So yes, technically right now, it's not very clean, but this is a break of structure. So this is a potential higher low right there. I would love to have another one, then another one like this, and then potentially to start see something like this. But I don't want to call any shorts yet because, again, looking at that beautiful risk on perspective, stocks are climbing beautifully. I bought some as well. But yes, quite interested to see whether this level will hold, because if this level holds, well, this is pretty much a weekly violation and a potential shift, first sign, or as I call it, trend change to the upside, right? So rather interested to see what's going to happen. Very excited to see what's going to happen at that level. And if I go to NASDAQ, this guy is already breaking above it, right? So that is pretty important because it's already breaking above it. NASDAQ had the biggest gains, right? And pretty much it is actually trading above that zone, right? Which again, I might mark as potential trend change, which immediately takes me into finding my demand where I can potentially take longs from. Okay, of course, NASDAQ trades slightly bit differently. It's a little bit more aggressive. It usually does the biggest moves, right? But also in terms of the daily, look at that beautiful bullish move, right? So there is a lower high, lower low, higher low. This one is not high. So we would have expected this one to break, but it's not. So definitely buyers are entering this market, push, pull back, push again. So of course, our last demand, either on the weekly, on the daily, is staying in around this kind of zones. So yes, it's bullish technically, but what we can also see, if we slightly look a little bit behind the behind the scene, we have this little guy right there, and then we can say, this one acts as liquidity in order to tap right there and then flush again. We don't know. And what I always keep saying is just follow the momentum and the order flow, right? Currently it's bullish, so taking longs is the higher probability of success. Okay. In terms of the 4H, well, potential long opportunities right there. And since then, we just started to slowly, not slowly, but very impulsively push without creating like slow corrections. So yeah, this is potentially where I would look to buy again. But right now we're having this overall range. So when this range stops and forms on the daily, we can of course drop the range like this, wait for the 50% and then strike again. But yeah, very interesting development. NASDAQ bullish. So let's see if we can have any pullback and a continuation higher, or are we going to start tapping right now into supplies and reversing lower. And S&P as well, similarly to US 30, it's just tapping into that supply. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. The order flow and the momentum is currently bullish, right? We're just about to take out a little high right there that might act as liquidity. There is our most recent higher low. But again, in order for me to say that S&P is going to turn bearish, again, I would need to see like at least a few lower lows and lower highs created before I say so, right? So let's see how it's going to play. But I'm definitely not going short, right? But I'm also definitely not buying stocks right now because they are a little bit too high. Okay, well, I bought some because their earning report actually was on a miss. So we had a little bit of a gap to the downside. So I stacked up on some. But yes, so this is my outlook on the indices. I am rather kind of indecisive right now because we're having that risk on perspective, but I know that long term we might be continuing lower. So again, this might just be a trap, like having this structure breaks, violating supply. A lot of us might say, oh, we're shifting, and then just to see the drop again. Okay, so stay tuned, of course, and make sure that you dollar cost average into your stocks. And if you're intraday trading those indices, then just follow the momentum. Crypto, I don't want to talk too much about crypto because I am a victim of Celsius. If you have been, if you're in a crypto space, you probably know Celsius, and I have a 5-figure sum being held there, which I cannot withdraw right now, and pretty much I consider the crypto as lost. But yeah, this is just my mistake. But yeah, so order flow is turning a little bit bullish on this one again. So is it part of that weekly pullback? Again, we can debate a little bit. What is the weekly range? Is it like this? Is it from here, right? Depending on how we draw it, there is pullback space towards both 50%, all right? And currently, yes, we're kind of in this little bullish order flow. Demand was very nicely respected, creating a new high right there. So of course, if you're trading crypto, currently the flow is bullish. So if you manage to find any long opportunities, then make sure to capitalize on those. I would appreciate like a pullback towards this zone, then a lower time frame shift, and then potentially continuing going higher. And on the other hand, Ethereum is also looking quite bullish. right? Also respected this rally-based rally demand, pushed into the highest, creating a brand new high, but also it's right now tapping into supply on the left, which is, yeah, not much of a weekly. If I drop the weekly leg, where are we? Yeah, we're not close to 50%. So again, this can probably give us a reaction, then pull back towards the 50%, and then maybe we're gonna launch another wave lower. So the situation right now, both with crypto and with indices, is that we're having this risk on perspective. People are starting to feel a little bit better about their stocks, about their cryptos. So more money is gonna flow in. But of course, on the backside of this is the economy. Is really the economy ready? Right? Are companies really ready to take it to the next level and start growing? We don't know. A lot of speeches, a lot of things about recession, inflation as well. They kind of start to dissipate a little bit. I don't see them as often anymore. So I'm kind of also trying to figure out where are we really going, right? Which is my homework. But as I told you, I currently really don't have the time and focus to do deep research. So I'm sorry for this video if it was rather kind of all over the place. I recorded it kind of a couple of times because we have like people, dogs, and a lot of stuff passing by. Hopefully you got some value from it. I'm sorry if it was a bit rushed. Usually I go in great details. I'm also going to share my trades, right? I'm going to do so, produce much more high quality content for you guys. But yes, if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment, right? Let me know what you think about all the instruments that you're trading. I wish you an amazing month ahead of you, and talk to you on my next video, and of course on Flow with the Markets Tuesday, hopefully.